Hi all, it's JK here. This is just a video guide on what to look for when buying the ep3 Civic Type R. The reason I'm doing this video is because unusually I was approached at the BP garage the other day filling up by a young lad, he must have been about 18, asking me what to look for when buying the car and all sorts. He said he'd looked at VWs, Peugeots, Renaults, Fords, whatever, and he'd settled for the Honda. So I said, well, now's not the time. It's getting dark, it's raining, which is usual for this time of year in the UK, and I want to go to bed, go home and go to bed. So I was going to email him, but I thought I'd do a video instead, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are interested in the car, and it's an interesting period for the car with prices going up. So let's start with maintenance and owner's history and sources of information on maintaining the car. Usually, and this was recommended to me when I got my first Type R, I've had two, so I've got 11 years ownership experience, was the Civic Type R Owners Forum. If you just Google that, it will bring up the website for you, so I won't bother listing it. You got to take what they say with a pinch of salt. They're novices, a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. For example, you see a lot of them that do oil changes at 6,000 miles, maybe less. You don't need to do that. It tells you in the manual to do 12 months or 12,000 mile services. And even the 12 months isn't true. For example, my Type R, the last time I did an oil change was 2012, I think. And today's date is 16th of January 2016. So long as the oil isn't black and isn't dripping off the dipstick like water, you're fine. Admittedly, the oil is getting dark on mine now, so it is going to go for a big oil change this summer. I'm aiming for June, which is fine because I'm only doing about 2,000 miles a year in the car now, and that's because I work from home. So yeah, maintenance. If I were to take you all upstairs into my room now and show you my owner's handbook, you'll see that for every service I've got receipts. For every tyre fitting service I've done, I've got receipts. Any other job I've had done or done myself, I've got the receipts, including light bulbs, you name it, I've got receipts for it. Even recently, I had one of my cars stolen, and unfortunately it had my spare key fob in it from that's a long story which I'll go into sometime, but yeah, it had my spare key fob in it, so I had to obviously get the locks changed. Unluckily for me, not just in that sense, but Honda couldn't do the job till February, and they quoted me 150 quid as well, so I had to get a guy to do it. Top job, he's done a good job. He's given me two keys, two new fobs. They're not Honda keys, but I'm not bothered about that. So long as the door locks and the old key doesn't work, that's all I care about. The car can't be driven away. But the point is, I've got the receipt for that job, and it's with the rest of the vehicle history as well. Obviously my car's one owner from new. I bought it in April 2006 when I was very young and naive. Now I'm an old man, and the car is actually assembled and left Swindon on the 24th of May 2005, and I know that because I had to do some work on my door handle, and I spotted a sign-off sticker inside the handle and it had that date on it. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that bit of history. I pretty much know everything about the car. I could give you an opinion on the car better than Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, any motoring journalist, most people in the world actually. I'm probably one of the few people that's owned the car for so long. So yeah, make sure the history is backed with receipts. I don't care if the wind blew it away, whatever. There's no receipts, then there's no sale. Don't buy the car. A liar can't back his words up without a receipt. So that's the thing. The other thing is, mine's done 76,000 miles now, which isn't bad. That's because in the early days I did a lot of mileage. You know, typical young lad, goes to car meets. I used to travel to uni every day. That was 66 miles round trip. My friend lives in Ravenshead, in Mansfield, so I used to meet him, and then we used to go for car rides. He used to have a Type R. Now he's got an STI, which he's happy with. He's just bought a Land Rover Discovery actually, so we are getting old. But yeah, in the early days I did do 16,000 miles a year, but now this last year I've just had the MOT done, and it had done 2,000 miles. So mileage just dived like a cliff off mine. If you look on Auto Trader, you see a lot of, it's probably younger than my car, that have done 40,000 miles. I personally find that a bit dodgy, because, you know, a Type R isn't the type of car a millionaire buys, that buys to drive just at weekends. Back in the day when people bought the car, they were just regular people, young people, that probably went to uni or had a job, and they used it every day. That's what the car was built for. It was built to be a practical solution to everyday problems. You're shopping, going on holiday, driving around with your family or your friends. You know, it does all those things. It ticks all those boxes. So the ones that are on Auto Trader or any other car sale website where the mileage is low, be very cautious. It could be that the engine blew and they put a new engine in, which is likely. And how would you know? If they don't put that in the history, how would you know? The other thing it could be is, it could be a car that's been in an accident and they've managed to recover it and get it fixed without the insurance knowing. That's quite common. So if I were you, and if you were looking at a 55 reg, 2006 reg, I'd look for at least 60,000 miles. The other thing is, mileage, too high mileage might not be a thing to worry about. I mean, I've seen some as high as 180,000 miles, but the analogy I use is a car that does 1,000 miles on a racetrack and a car that does 12,000 miles on a road, on a regular road, which engine is going to be in best condition? Obviously the one that's been on the public road, because its average RPM is going to be probably 2,500 RPM, and the average speed is probably going to be 55 miles per hour. On a racetrack, you're looking at average speeds of over 100 miles an hour and an average RPM of 5,000, 6,000 RPM. So mileage, yes, it's the only indicator we've got of engine condition and wear, but it's not the be all and end all. The main thing is they can back the service history up with receipts. They can give you receipts to every bulb, every brake disc, every tyre, every brake pad, whatever. There's got to be a receipt to back it all up. Even the oil. They've got to have receipts to all the oil, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Now, again, Civic Type R on this website, you see the question, what oil should I put in my car, what viscosity, what mix, blah, blah, blah. Why? Why are they asking this question? The Honda Civic Type R comes with a pamphlet, a Honda endorsed pamphlet, and it recommends 5W30 Castrol Magnatec. That's the oil I've always used in my car, and it's the oil I'll always use. So I don't know why people are asking that question. They probably bought a car that's used and the owner's lost documentation to it. So again, that's another sign of negligence, in my opinion. If a guy loves his car and the guy looks after his car, he will keep every piece of documentation with the owner's manual, which is what I've done. And no, my car's not for sale. Sorry. So yeah, make sure it's, in my opinion, and in Honda's recommendation, it's used Castrol Magnatec. Disagree with me if you want. Facts are facts. That's what they say. Then go on the test drive. Don't fall in love with the car on the test drive, especially if it's your first time you've driven it. It is a beautiful car. It changes gear beautifully. It revs lovely. The VTEC kicking in is nice, and it handles beautifully. People say little go-kart. Well, no, I wouldn't call it a go-kart. A go-kart can't hold luggage and a load of people, can it? So you're looking out for mechanical problems. Another thing that they keep going on about on the Civic Type R website is the second gear change problem. I don't know what that is. I've owned two Type Rs and I've never had a problem with going into second gear. So, and my current Type R is 10 in April, so no idea what that is. I've never had that problem. Never had a warranty claim made on my car. Never had any problems with it. It did its MOT the other day and the guy said, oh, your back box is going, that'll only last 6 more months. Well, that's fine. It's a 10-year-old back box. It came with the car out of Swindon. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And that's pretty much it. Just make sure the car has full receipt history backing it up. Also, if I were you, I would not buy a vehicle with more than one owner. If you see a car with more than one owner, I'd walk, to be honest. Maybe two, but the thing is, like the other day, we're looking at Land Cruisers again, and we saw a 1996 VX for sale on our eBay, and it said family-owned car, never towed, never off-roaded. So in other words, it sounds perfect. It never worked a day in its life, so the engine will be brand new. However, it had 5+ owners. I think this particular one had 6 in total, 6 owners, and that obviously the seller is only obligated to tell you their history. They can't tell you the history before that. So if you see a Type R that's had so many owners, the current owner, yes, might have only taken it out once a week at 2,000 RPM and VTEC'd it once on Sunday, in a month of Sundays. What about the other 6 owners, or 5 owners, or 4, 3, or even 2, or even the owner before them? You tend not to keep the previous vehicle owner's history, particularly ones where they're getting on a bit, where the car's getting on, and it's cheap, and it's had 6, 7, 8 owners. You see a lot of Type R's for sale for £3 grand. I won't touch them, to be honest. Again, they've had many owners, been modified, a lot of them been modified, and it's just not good. People will buy the car for the short term, they won't take care of it. You want one where the owner bought it with the intention of keeping it for the long term. It's like when I had this Type R brand new, a mate of mine bought the ST, and we were racing, obviously in an airfield, and he said, oh, why do you let it warm up? Why don't you just go for it? I said, because I want to keep the car long term. You bought your ST and you're only keeping it for a year, 2 years. I'm keeping mine for 10, 15 years minimum. So that's another thing. The one owner thing really would have treated the car better than the multiple owner vehicle. So the other thing to look for is one that has not had the timing belt changed. The reason for that is it should be done at 100,000 miles, I think. I need to check on that, but I'm pretty sure it says in the owner's manual, 110,000, get it checked. If you look on the Civic Type R owners website, they go on about, oh, it needs to be changed at 50,000 miles. Well, that's complete rubbish. If the timing belt chain's ever been changed, it's another sign that the engine's been abused, because it should only need changing if there has never been sufficient oil in the engine. Obviously mine's had plenty of oil in it, it's never needed a chain, so that's it. So just to reiterate that, if the vehicle history shows they've had a timing belt changed and it's not done over 100,000 miles, I'd walk. It's a car that's been abused, not fully lubricated. The other thing is, I saw a guy on YouTube the other day, he was showing the dipstick and it's got 2 dots in it, which is the oil indicator. He said the oil's got to be in between the 2 dots. Well, that's nonsense. I've always, and will always, fill the oil so that the oil goes marginally over the top dot. So make sure when you check the engine, check the dipstick and make sure the oil goes over both dots and is over the top. That means it's had plenty of oil. It's always better to put a little too much oil in, not to the point where there's smoke everywhere, obviously, but always go over full, because, you know, oil evaporates. For example, I drove to London and back a few times because a mate of mine lives in North London, and that takes half a tub of oil, because you're doing 80 miles an hour at 4,000 RPM. That's a very hot engine, and at that temperature, oil will just evaporate. So it's better to have a dipstick that's slightly over full. In between the 2 dots, that means it's half full. So that's a tortured engine. So watch out for that as well. I think that's everything. So yeah, go and find your dream car, and I hope it goes well for you. But what I might do as well is another video with me driving it and walking around it and showing how a proper owner will take care of his car. You know, none of this riding around town in first gear, redlining it. It's just it's a car you use when you want to have fun, and it's a car you respect, and then you'll have many miles of pleasure out of it. I'll do a couple of overtakes as well, because I think people need to know how to overtake properly in a car like that, so not to upset people, not to break the law, and not to risk lives. Okay, thanks for that.